This is a reading to understand what happened to Keneeka Jenkins. She was the woman who was found deceased in a hotel freezer in Chicago. And I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories floating around about how she passed. And the cards to me are very, very clear. Honestly, what I see is that the official storyline is exactly what happened. Now, first and foremost, what I see is that I'm getting that she did something foolish that night, which was she overconsumed alcohol. So her cup ranneth over, okay? So she drank too much, very foolishly. And she would have known better than to do that because she was on medication that she probably knew that she shouldn't be drinking on, but she kind of like threw all caution to the wind and drank on it anyways, which was a fatal mistake. Now, it's clear to me that she foolishly got too drunk on medication that she shouldn't be drinking on, that she knew she shouldn't be doing. And she foolishly stumbled away from her friends. She left her friends, okay? So, what happened to her, which is on the surveillance footage, is exactly what happened. She stumbled through the hotel. She ended up and this is almost creepy because she ends up in the freezer, and we have this card here where these people are freezing. So, and this card is telling me very much so that she was incapacitated in some way. So obviously she was drunk. She didn't have her motor skills because she was too drunk. So when she got locked in there, she didn't know how to get out. Okay, she didn't know how to get out, but she also she couldn't make her body do what she needed it to do. So what I mean by that is she had lost control of her body. So, what I feel like is she got in there, and then, there probably was a lot of stumbling around, not understanding where she was or what was going on. Now, any sort of injuries on her body would have come from her falling, okay? So, falling inside of the freezer, there's tons of times where she's actually not on camera, and during those moments, she is off camera for quite a while. So what I feel like is whenever she has stumbled, there's a point where she stumbles into the bathroom, there's a point where she stumbles towards into a corner where there was a water fountain. I feel like she would have fallen, and that's what probably would have taken her so long to kind of get back up and start walking again. So that's where any sort of injuries would have happened. Now, what I see from these cards is that ultimately what started to happen was that she basically had succumbed to defeat, okay? And she was very emotional about it. She didn't want to feel defeated, but she ultimately felt defeated because she didn't know how to get out of there. She started to get cold, okay? Her body was not functioning the way she wanted it to or needed it to. And what I also get is that she started to feel sleepy, okay? So with all of those things in conjunction with each other, it led to this defeat, okay? Where she basically just decided, there's nothing I can do. I'm just going to lie down and go to sleep. Not realizing that, like, she wouldn't wake up, you know? I don't really think that she thought that she was going to die. I don't think she knew that at all. I think she just had, like, been fighting the feeling of being drunk, of trying to figure out where she was and where she was going, and trying to understand like what room she was in, how to get out. She didn't know how to get out, and she was getting sleepy, and she could just, you know, she felt cold, you know, and she just was like, I give up. Okay? Which is really sad, but now obviously these cards are saying that somebody in Keneeka's life who would have been an authority figure to her is just overcome with emotion about losing her. Okay, so I would assume that would probably be her mother or her father, or both. Now, there is an overwhelming amount of grief, okay? And it's in connection with her friends, okay? So I think there's regret and grief with her friends, because I believe it's because they didn't stick together. So because they left her at the elevator, they have extreme regret over this, okay? There's also regret because if you watch the footage of the surveillance footage, there are so many times where she is like, just, I don't even know, like seconds or minutes away from being discovered, from being found. Like, she is always just missing somebody. You know what I mean? Like, she's walking down the hall, and then she would have gone into a door, and then somebody else walks down the hall. There's even a part where she's in that downstairs hallway where she almost falls over the railing, and she goes into the kitchen, back into the kitchen, and then, like, later on, her friends come down those stairs, and they look around, and then they go the other way. So there's also a video that I know that there was the surveillance video in the kitchen that now people think there's some conspiracy because there was a man that walks into the kitchen that was previously cut out of, I guess, the frame of the surveillance footage, that he literally walks in like seconds after Keneeka, okay? And I've watched it. I've thought about it, and obviously by looking at these cards and looking at that footage, to me it looked like he may have thought he heard somebody. Like, I think he thought he heard the door closing, and that's why he stands there and he looks that way, and he's a little bit confused, like, did I hear it? Like, and he's probably sitting there in his head trying to rationalize away, like, well, no, there's nothing back there. Like, why would someone be back there? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he would have thought she would have ever been there. And I think he paused because I think he heard the door closing, but he didn't quite place what the noise was. So he heard it and looked around and was a little confused. You can tell by his face. And he's sitting there thinking, what did I just hear? And he just lets it go because I guess he just figures no one will be back there. But So that's where there's so much regret involved, because everybody saw all that footage and now they know the truth, that at every turn she was like seconds away from being found. So it's heartbreaking. And now there's also regret on the part of the police, okay? And it's in connection with the family and friends, okay? The police have some regret about not being cooperative, in the fact that like they didn't quite take it seriously, or it's something to do with that. Like that they were not cooperative because they weren't taking the message seriously, and I believe it's I believe it's because of that, but also more than that, I feel like it's regret over not looking at the surveillance footage sooner. Because once they watched that footage, they realized, where she was and everything like that. Like they would have found out much sooner if they had just watched the footage. Because they didn't even really find out from the footage. They found out from a hotel worker that, on a whim, I guess, decided to go look in that freezer. And so, it's definitely, there's definitely a regret on the part of the police, because they know now that she could have been found much faster. And honestly, that's why we have surveillance footage. So why would you wait an entire day later to look at it? I don't understand that at all. I don't know why. And it's just incompetent. And they feel stupid for it. So they're gonna be defensive about it. If there's any sort of defense I don't really know too much about going into that part of the case, but I would say if there's any sort of defensiveness on the police side, that's why. Because they're feeling dumb. They're feeling really stupid about the fact that like they didn't go immediately to the surveillance footage. So so that is my reading on Keneeka Jenkins. I mean, it's very straightforward. It's an unfortunate tragedy that, it was just a mistake. It was an accident that nobody stumbled upon her. Everybody was like at the wrong time, and the fact that the police didn't really take it very seriously at first and didn't review the surveillance footage until it was too late. I guess just rest in peace, Keneeka, and so sorry for the loss for her family and friends, but yeah, so thanks for listening. Take care.